The Helldivers 2 situation continues to get worse. It's probably going to continue getting worse before it maybe gets better. We've reached the point now where people are asking the CEO what to do if they can't play the game anymore because of the new requirements, and he's answering, I don't know. But there's two things that are really important to discuss. The first one is that the game is no longer for sale in any country that does not have PlayStation Network service. The second is that there is a large amount of people that are trying to convince others that this is a non-issue, that it's just 2 minutes to create an account and link it, and that the PC community is whining. And in my opinion, they are willingly disregarding all of the very real information about how this is bad and how this is really affecting people in order to make their little jokes and try and dunk on the PC community and start some strange war of spreading misinformation about a real issue. So I'm going to tackle all of the criticisms that they have against the people protesting in this video and explain why they're wrong. So let's start with the game getting delisted from all of those countries on Steam. For those of you who do not know, due to the new requirement that they announced where you have to link your PSN account in order to play, all of the countries where they were previously selling it that do not have access to PSN, even if you bought it, paid for it, and played it for 1,000 hours, you're still not going to be able to keep playing. Some of the community managers have said that that will not be the case, but there has been no official statement, no solution has been posed to this problem, and so the game is now delisted from any country that doesn't have PSN. You can no longer buy the game in very large parts of the world. Now, we don't know if this is from Sony or from Steam, but it seems very likely, at least in my opinion, that this was Steam that doesn't want to deal with whatever the fallout is going to be from this. They are also now offering refunds from pretty much all of those regions. And from what I've seen, anecdotal evidence, people on Reddit, on Twitter, no questions asked. If you're from a country where the game is no longer available to purchase, you will get a refund. This is obviously not the best outcome. The best outcome would be for everybody to continue playing this game. But the fact that this is happening, I personally find some enjoyment in it, because the other thing we need to talk about is the amount of people that are trying to pick a fight with the PC community that is very angry at these changes. I've seen wild misunderstandings, and I've seen a lot of people willingly not want to understand in order to make their little jokes and their little attacks and belittle the community in a way that I've never really seen before. This amount of warfare. It feels like it's console fanboy type of stuff, but now it's between PC people and PlayStation people, and what I see is mostly PlayStation players attacking PC players for not wanting to have a PSN account. And this of course means that they are ignoring so many of the more important parts about this whole mess. I've seen plenty of people saying that it only takes 2 minutes to make an account. I've seen plenty of people try and dunk on PC gamers by saying that they so happily oblige this when it's EA or Ubisoft or Rockstar, for example, and that, oh, but when it comes to Sony, it's the end of the world. It's all petty business, but I can't help myself, and I just have this thing in me where I want to make sure people are informed, and I have very little tolerance for the people who should. I'm not saying that all of them choose to ignore the very clearly stated facts, the much deeper problems that are here, and that they ignore it to make their little jokes and farm their engagement. Some of them are just stupid. But I just have this part of me that needs to set the record straight. So let's go one by one with all of the criticisms people have. People keep saying that it was there from day one that you needed a PSN account, and during the first hours of the game launching, you were prompted to enter your PSN account before they took that down and waived it, but that the requirement was still there on the Steam page. My answer to that is that what is normally put in writing and what is real are very different. Sony says you can't resell your games, and that's in their EULA, but they don't enforce that. Sony says that they reserve the right to remove any of your content, your account, and any of the privileges that you own at the drop of a hat, but they don't do that, right? When something is presented to you, but it is not enforced, and that is the conditions under which you purchase a product, that is the conditions under which you paid for it, and you are entitled to have that product continue working that way in exchange for what you paid for. And the fact that it was not enforced when millions of people purchased it many of whom are in countries that can no longer play the game. Those were the conditions that the game was under, and specifically in the European Union, this is illegal. It doesn't matter that it said it was a requirement if it wasn't enforced and it wasn't clearly communicated to the player that later on it would be enforced. And even then, even if when you logged on it said at a future date you will be required to have a PSN account in order to play this game, if it said that and you had to agree to that in big, bold letters because the way that you present it matters, it's not just leaving it in a little corner down at the bottom right of a Steam page, even if they had done that, the fact that then later on agreeing to it means that a lot of customers can no longer access that product would have made it illegal to sell. And this is exactly why Steam is delisting the game in those territories, because of the legal problems that it brings. It is very different to list that requirement than it is to enforce it, because many things list things as necessary that you can completely circumvent, or that in reality are not mandatory, but they are optional, but they really want you to do it, but they don't have legal grounds to stand on to force you into certain things. The second most common thing I've seen is that little thing about how many other publishers require linking third-party accounts and how PC gamers have never had an issue with that before, which is facetious at best and completely misleading at worst. Now, I want to be upfront with something. While my main platform is PC, I own all of the consoles. I have a PSN account. I live in a region where PSN is available. This does not affect me at all. But I also do not tolerate giant corporations bending people to their will and taking away their games. And let me tell you, PC gamers have always had a problem with everything. There is a consistent joke within the PC community that I'm sure console players are aware of as well, that games that release on the Epic Game Store don't actually release until they're out on Steam a year later. They just go there to die, and people would rather pretend they don't exist and play them a year later than open the Epic Game Store. Many people refuse to play anything made by Ubisoft because they refuse to use Uplay. Many people refuse to use EA services. Just because there are groups of people that are okay with it doesn't mean everybody is. But the biggest important difference here with Helldivers 2 is that when you bought Red Dead Redemption 2, when you bought Jedi Survivor, when you bought Assassin's Creed, the first thing that pops up when you hit play game is that it tells you you need to use Uplay. You must link your Uplay account, you must link your EA account, you must have your Rockstar account. And if at that moment, the very first moment that you are presented with the game at all, you do not agree with it, you refuse to make an account, you can immediately refund the game. For essentially 3 months, anybody who purchased Helldivers 2 did not have any indication besides that little thing in the corner telling them that they required a PSN account. It wasn't even in-game, it's not in Sony's terms of service, which they stealth changed from the 3rd of May to the 4th of May. There was no clear communication to a person who bought the game that a friend told them that they didn't need a PSN account, that they just had to buy the game, open it and play. You would buy it, you would open it, and you would play. And now they're telling you that you need to do this. Nobody likes it when the rules are changed halfway through. Nobody likes it when suddenly something that they are used to, something that they are invested in, completely changes, and there's no real indication why, because it's not a benefit to you. It obviously wasn't necessary before, and especially when the company that's implementing that change says something as stupid as saying that it's necessary to identify unique users, when that is something that is baked into how Steam works. Every single person that is playing Helldivers 2 has a unique Steam ID, and Sony can identify them and ban them for cheating or for whatever reason. And if they didn't have those unique user IDs, then how are they taking all of the microtransactions? How are they keeping track of all the super credits? Like, let's not play dumb here. They're doing this now because they really want people to be logged in on PSN. It boosts their numbers. They can collect more data, which is very valuable. And people are specifically mad at Sony because they have a very bad history of data breaches. But even if you take away all of those other things, it's the fact that it wasn't there. A majority of the customers that bought the game didn't see it, had no warning of it, and now they're getting surprised by it. A lot of people are also saying the now famous line that it just takes 2 minutes to make a PSN account and link it, when that is just not true at all. In many countries, PSN accounts today, when you go to make them, require a facial scan and require ID. You are not just giving Sony a throwaway email and a throwaway phone number or something. It is not a 2-minute process. And more importantly, it's not data that can be throwaway at all. This isn't like when you use your iPhone and your iPhone gives them a throwaway email directly or something. You need a facial scan and to send a picture of your driver's license or some photo ID. You are giving Sony so much information about yourself to create this PSN account, so much more than the information that you need to give for almost any other account related to gaming, just so you can link it to your Steam account in order to play a game that had no indication that you would really need to do this to continue playing it when you bought it and played it for 3 months. Are you really going to be so naive as to say that it's just PC players that are angry about this? Imagine if this were there at launch. Imagine if when you bought the game and booted it up for the first time, it said, hey, right now you don't need a PSN account, but in 3 months it will be mandatory. And in order to make that PSN account, you will have to give us a scan of your face and photo ID. How many people do you think would have immediately refunded the game? How many people at that moment would have said, well, this is just not worth it? But they weren't given that choice. They weren't informed of that requirement or what that requirement would entail. So of course they're going to feel like it's a bait and switch when they go to make a PSN account and it says, give us your face and your ID. Or when they go to make a PSN account and Sony tells them that they can't. And if they tried to do so, by using any other form like a VPN, they will get banned. So, functionally speaking, they have no access to the game anymore. That is such a serious thing that Steam delisted the game. And all of this, like I said, with the rules changing. And of course, the very common criticism has been that PC gamers just whine about everything. Instead of thinking about it from the perspective that PC gamers are just a little bit more conscious about their rights as consumers, and that they refuse to partake in certain things that have been normalized within the console space, within the walled gardens that console gaming can be. The thing I think people don't understand about PC gamers and about content creators like me, who are primarily PC gamers, but I review games from every platform, is that we're not fighting this because it's on PC. We're fighting this because it's wrong. If this same thing happened to a game on console, I'm sure that some PC gamers would clown on it and say, oh, PC Master Race, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there can be some bad blood there. But from the community that I know, PC gamers with absolutely no interest in a console would still be out there protesting and making a big fuss about this if it happened on PlayStation Network, or if it happened on Xbox. This is a serious problem, and the amount of people that are coming out trying to defend Sony and pretending that this is anything but abhorrent behavior is honestly very sad. This is something that involves all of us as consumers together, as gamers, as people who are entitled to good products and not having the rules flipped on us. And the most important part about this whole thing that so many people are willingly ignoring is how many people in so many different communities now lose access to a game that they love and a game that was championed as an example of goodwill and good practices and healthy ways to monetize a game. People pretend that everywhere in the world is their bubble, where they don't get affected by it because their country has PSN and they have a PSN account and they link it in 2 minutes and they don't care. And you know what? That is me as well, but I do care, and you should too. The list of countries where this game has been sold to people that can no longer buy it and will have to go through a process of either losing the game or being under special conditions, and their friends who are in that country that didn't purchase it before can never play it, whatever. Just so many stupid things that can happen here. This is not acceptable. We pretend that the most common language that people use on Steam is not simplified Chinese. That is the most common language on Steam, my guy. There is a very big part of the user base, a very big part of the people who bought and played Helldivers that loses access to this game that loses access to a product that they paid for and now has to jump through different hoops for no good reason except that a company wants to put you into their ecosystem for whatever reason that benefits them, with the most obvious one being how they obtain your data, how they get all of your information, as well as being able to tout the amount of active users on PSN and share that in a boardroom. And to do that, they are harming not only their brand and their image, but they are directly harming communities and a lot of just people who wanted to play a good game. And if you don't see the problem in that, you really need to reevaluate other things first. I've been Mugthief, and I tried to do my best to explain it here. A big thank you to my wonderful patrons up on the Patreon wall, and if you want to be up there and also get a verbal shout out at the end of my long-form analysis videos, got a couple of those, actually quite a lot of those, coming real soon. You can sign up at the link in the description. There's only one tier, and it's $1. To everyone else, thank you so much for watching. If you want more from me, remember to subscribe, and if you like the video, hit the like button. You know how it all goes. And as always, I'll see you again very soon.